I'm going way too backstory here, but when I first got started interested in politics, it was 2003, Iraq War. And I distinctly remember listening to, I think it was Janine Garofalo on Air America Radio. Is this right? And yeah. I remember exactly where I was when I heard this. And she said, I just don't want America to be the world superpower anymore. I want us to be more like a Denmark or something like that, right? Like just like where we just kind of stay out of things and whatever. And I can understand someone's appeal with that, but I think the problem with it is when you have China using international institutions like the UN and the WHO and all that to impose their worldview on us. We can't just be, this free independent state anymore. Now we're at the whims of the UN controlled by China. Does that concern make sense?
Oh, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So, to go back to those heady days when Janine Garofalo was on the radio talking about America, Denmark could be Denmark only because America was America. In other words, American hegemony underwrit peace and prosperity in Europe since the end of World War II. We complain sometimes about, these NATO countries should spend more on defense. I actually think it would be better if, Germany didn't rearm, since the number one cause of a peaceful Europe over the past 70 years has been the fact that American military right has underwritten peace in Europe. Europe, left to its own devices historically, will go to war with itself and with its neighbors. And so the implications of America just becoming like Denmark are that you have another hegemon that will rise up like China, that will capture these international institutions and then will export its brand of government. And its brand of government is not about the rule of law. It's not about democracy or the consent of the governed. It is about power, it is about authoritarian control, and it is about brute force. And so that's what we need to think about in terms of understanding what the stakes are here.
Wow, that's so well said. And I'm so concerned based on what we saw with COVID, how easy it was for them to export their lack of morality and how the whole world's like, yes, we should do what China did. It's like, wow.
It's crazy. And I'll say this too, that combating China shouldn't necessarily be thought of in military terms primarily or first. We need to go back and fix the mistakes that we've made, allowing our corporations to turn over their technology to China, allowing them to basically kowtow to whatever Beijing says in order to have access to Chinese markets was a huge mistake. Allowing our critical infrastructure and supply lines to be supplied through China and Chinese state-run companies, we have to completely rethink all of that. We need to onshore this stuff, redirect our supply lines, and start changing the way we do business with China, if we do business with China at all. This is all stuff that we have to think right now.
All right, super interesting. So I have always been a free market guy, and markets will work. And I definitely fell for the trick that, as you said earlier, like they'll become more like us as opposed to us become more like them. Fell for it. So this idea of like, we need to onshore, force companies to do this, or not allow Disney to open up Shanghai Disneyland or whatever. That to me is like, whoa, I'm very uncomfortable with that. But talk to me about like how, no. That's a really important, this is an important way to act, and it's not contrary to your values of X. You know what I mean?
That's right. Well, we got to understand what is the American national interest. Free markets are in the American national interest up to a point. But there comes a point when trading with China and having our corporations turn over their technology to China is no longer in the interest of the American people or the American project. It may be in the interest of, billionaire corporate oligarchs who make a lot of money by doing business with China, but that's not necessarily in the interest of the American people. And this is something that Trump said back in 2016 that got a lot of people's attention because nobody wanted to talk about it. But moving, manufacturing overseas to China was very good for some of these companies and the people who run these companies, but it wasn't necessarily good for the communities in the United States that relied on those manufacturing jobs, and as a result, got hollowed out and became ghost towns. Right? This is sort of the price of globalization: is that like vast swaths of the Midwest just have no industry in them now, and so we need to think about this in terms of what is in the American national interest. Free trade and globalization can be good. They do have their right place, but we need to be trading with companies or trading with countries, I should say, that will share our rules-based values, the rule of law, and are not going to try to export authoritarianism into our corporations, into our universities and schools, and onto our TV screens.
Hey, Static Crusaders, thanks for watching that whole clip. We have much, much more of that, clearly, on our website. You can download the app as well and become a supporter and watch the whole darn thing.